Welcome to the Your Courageous Life podcast, where we explore what it really means to transform fear, burnout, and perfectionism with the practice of courage. I'm Kate, author of the books 100% Fully Alive and The Courage Habit, creator of YourCourageousLife.com, and head of the CLCC Coach Training Program at TeamCLCC.com. If you're someone who feels deeply, thinks critically, and wants to stay grounded in a world that can feel like too much, then this is the podcast for you. Learn evidence-based and heart-centered tools to practice courage so that who you are on the inside becomes how you live, lead, and show up on the outside. And now, let's get into today's episode. All right, it's Kate, and today we're going to talk about how to do something that is supposed to help you grow, but often ends up making people feel like a failure. And that is to debrief the year or have an annual review. A lot of people avoid this, and I actually believe that it's a potent and powerful practice. So let's get into it, because I would like to help you conduct an annual review that makes you feel alive, not behind, okay? An annual review that helps you to learn and then vision into the future, which is actually going to be the subject of the next podcast episode. So check out that one after you've listened to this one. So how do we start with this? I mean, you know the drill. It's the end of the year, and everywhere you look, people are posting their highlight reels, the wins, the milestones, the shiny recap of everything they accomplished. Nowhere is this worse, by the way, than on LinkedIn when businesses do it. I feel like I'm allergic to LinkedIn. I'll be on it sometimes, but LinkedIn. Insert vomit emoji. You might start wondering to yourself, when you're looking back on your year, and maybe even just listening to this podcast is prompting this question, what did I even do this year? And maybe you're even feeling like I didn't do anything particularly great. So if that sounds familiar, keep listening, because the goal of an annual review, which again is an alchemizing, potent practice, it's not to measure your worth. The goal here is to reconnect you to what matters and also to celebrate all forms of progress. So first, let's start with how most people approach reflection. They tend to treat it like an audit. Already not a great word, right? Like audit. I think of the IRS. Ew. So most people approach reflecting on or looking back on the year like an audit. What worked? What didn't? Here's what I need to fix. And that's fine for your taxes, but for your life, it's way too narrow. So instead, let's redefine what a courageous annual review looks like. And again, if you want some resources to support you in this, the Courageous Living Planner, which is only available to Your Courageous Life subscribers, that is where you want to go. That planner is free. It's in the Your Courageous Life library. Head to yourcourageouslife.com/begin, and you can start on it today. And part of what I walk through with people in that planner is how to do this annual review process. So this is a process I use each year. It's one that helps me feel grounded and intentional instead of feeling like I'm behind. So step one, start with honesty, not judgment. Before you list a single goal or accomplishment from this past year, start asking, what did this year feel like? Not what you did, not what you earned. How did it feel to live this year? And write about it. Let the truth come out. The truth, no editing. Maybe you'll notice it was a season that was really heavy. Maybe you'll notice that it was a season that was really expanding. Maybe it surprised you. Maybe it was a mix of beautiful and brutal, which I believe, I'm trying to think of what author said this, but I know I've heard the term brutiful before, which is kind of a hybridized of both of those. So to me, that's your real starting point, not the spreadsheet version. Who needs a spreadsheet to feel better about their life? Okay, there are people who nerd out on the spreadsheets and they're like, I will defend that choice. Okay, all right. A lot of people, though, do not like spreadsheets. I am in that camp. So the real, writing it out. Start with honesty, not judgment. What did this past year feel like? And as you're writing, again, no judgment means if this past year felt like I'm feeling disappointed in myself, I made a lot of big plans, they didn't come to fruition. Sit with the discomfort, be kind and gentle to yourself. That is the courageous thing to do here, because the past is in the past. You're not going to change it, but you can courageously acknowledge what the past year felt like. And from this present moment, alchemize that into something bolder and more beautiful for the coming year. Step 2, gather evidence of growth, not just wins, but growth. And you got to remember, your brain has a negativity bias. It's tied to survival. Our brains remember what went wrong a hell of a lot more than what went right. So look for those moments of resilience that maybe didn't make a highlight reel, but they're very real. The tough conversation you finally had. The day you showed up when it would have been easier to quit. I got to tell you, I have this one run that I probably will remember for the rest of my life. And there's no accolades around this run, but it was basically, I was training for a half marathon, and I had this day where I was living in Colorado, and it was on the schedule for me to go on a 10-mile run. And I looked at the weather forecast, and the weather for the afternoon was supposed to be great. So I didn't go in the morning. It was supposed to be one of those days in Colorado, east of the Rockies, where it was going to be 50 degrees and sunny all day long. And I say that, and I know there are people who are from Colorado who are laughing right now. They're like, I know where this story's going. Because when weather comes over the Rocky Mountains, it changes drastically and quickly. And so what happened was my 50 degrees and sunny day turned into 30 degrees with winds that were 40 miles per hour. And let me tell you, I crashed out. I was pissed. I was so mad because I'd been having a really hard time just generally, and the training was really hard, and I thought I'd planned it out so well. And now I had to go do this 10-mile run in the worst conditions. And let me tell you, I'm out there doing this 10-mile run, and I did it, and it was horrible. A lot of people are like, Kate, you had me at running. Running is horrible. Well, I actually like running. And I even don't mind a 10-mile run, but it was horrible even for someone who likes running. You know how horrible a run has to be? There was freezing cold rain being thrust into my face. My eyelashes were freezing. I was wearing 5 layers. I felt like the abominable snowman in 10 layers, and I couldn't move, but I had to keep moving. It was just horrible. But I will always remember that run because I showed up when it would have been easier to quit. And that's actually one of the proudest runs I've ever done. To me, it is evidence of growth. And that horrible run was one that I would remember later when I was like, if I could do that, I can do this. I can do this other run that is with great weather conditions. So that's just one example. But what is the week at work that you survived and you were like, there's no way, I'm going to lose it. And you made it through that week, and it's like, all right, I showed up. What are the boundaries that you kept? What are the things that you created, even if you didn't send it out to your followers for everybody to see it? You created it, and that's fine. It was for you. That is all growth. It all counts. So gather evidence of growth, not just the quote unquote wins. And if you struggle to remember, maybe scroll back through photos, emails, journal entries. The evidence of who you have become and what you've learned is already there. All right, step 3. Identify what you're done carrying. Every year leaves a kind of residue. Expectations, old roles, outdated versions of yourself. And I think doing an annual review without releasing what no longer fits is like deciding you're going to declutter a closet, but refusing to take anything out. So you got to ask yourself, what am I ready to stop doing? What am I done being afraid of? What obligations am I letting go of? What stories am I tired of buying into? Write it down or say it out loud. Tell a friend. Let it be real. Because when you release what's no longer aligned, you create space for what's next. Step 4, bring in gratitude. Gratitude for the whole picture. Not I can't, a lot of people struggle to feel grateful if they didn't have a perfect year. And that's perfectionism talking. Nobody has a perfect version of a year. There's the real year you had. So the gratitude that you're having is for the lessons, for the effort, for the fact that you're still here, for still trying, for still growing. That's the kind of reflection and gratitude that builds courage. And when you sit in the gratitude of that, it does transform the situation. Now, maybe you need some support around that. If you do, I would strongly encourage you to talk to a friend, because often the people who love us are the ones who remind us of all the things that we don't own about ourselves, that we don't acknowledge. Ask the friend, if you were looking at my life, what would you say? I'm really, really grateful that I have this. Maybe it's a partner who always champions your next move. Maybe it's a partner where you've had a really tough past year, but you also know that there's been shifts, growth. Ask friends, enlist your support systems, and really get ruthless about, I will find something to be grateful for. Because again, that's how you're building courage. So again, happy to support you with this with the free resource of the Courageous Living Planner. Head to yourcourageouslife.com/begin to become a subscriber and get that. And I would love it too if you share on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you find me, some things that you have found that you are grateful for, or some things that you're learning from your annual review. Head on over to any of those networks. They're all linked in my bio. And I look forward to connecting with you and hearing about what you reflected on and the lessons learned. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Before you go, would you take just one moment to give a rating in whatever podcast app you're listening in right now? It's a tiny action that helps to get this podcast out to more people. And I've got more for you. You can get access to free resources, audios, worksheets, and more for practicing courage in your everyday life. Head over to yourcourageouslife.com and become a subscriber, and you'll get access to an entire library of free courageous resources. And if you've ever thought about becoming a coach, or if you want to bring deeper presence and purpose to your work life so that corporate job doesn't feel quite so soul-sucking, check out the CLCC Coach Training Program at teamclcc.com. Thank you again for listening, and I hope that whatever today brings, you meet it with courage.